The thing about this condition is, like some others like lupus and that, it is sensitive to stress. And so the stress of your average everyday, working world is something that I can't handle. If I get a little bit frustrated, if I get stressed out, at this point, it's a pretty good bet I'm going to have symptoms. And that is really frustrating because it meant I couldn't return to work. I ended up quitting my job. They were willing to hold it for me. It was so sweet. They said, we'll give you more time to get better, even though all your FMLA's been used up. We'll wait for you. And I could tell, I knew my symptoms were still so great at that point, especially, that I knew there was no way. And especially knowing about the condition and how stress interacts with it, I knew there was no way. Get a little bit frustrated over a meeting and poof, you're sick. It just doesn't work. So I quit. In retrospect, I kind of wish I hadn't. I kind of wish I had let them let me go. But how would that happen with them holding the job for me? So anyway. I had been on short-term disability, and in the end that got denied because I was seeing some improvement. I was still having symptoms throughout most of a week at that point. It wasn't like I was completely well. I'm still not completely well, but they ended up considering it preventative that I wasn't working because work made the symptoms their worst. So they felt like that was enough of a reason to just deny the disability, which is separate, of course, from actual like SSI that people get from the government, SSDI, that sort of thing. This is like short-term disability, like you purchase, your work might offer. That is what got denied. Even though nearly every day I was still having symptoms. So then November of 2016, it was at the end of October 2016 that I finally quit my job, right when my FMLA had run out. And so November of 2016.
November, we were still kind of processing all of that and trying to figure out what to do. And of course, trying to be financially responsible adults. We refied our house earlier in 2000. Can't remember if it was the beginning of 2016 into 2015.
It was around March of 2016. So in that same year. Yeah, I mean, we were doing well. I had gotten my promotion, and Brett was doing very well in his job. And so we refied our house from a 30-year to a 15-year loan, which, of course, has a massive payment in comparison. But it was, hey, we're going to be fiscally responsible and pay off our house faster. That's how we're going to use this extra income. So fast forward to November of 2016.
And we kind of started hitting the skids financially and tried to go through and look at potentially refining again to a 30-year mortgage, but then couldn't get the couldn't secure the financing to do the 30-year mortgage.
Right.
So we're kind of stuck in this 15-year mortgage that we can't pay for.
Right. And the thing that was really just silly about it was that the reason that they denied their refi was because we didn't have the collateral for a 30-year loan. In other words, we weren't making enough money without having two incomes. Because, of course, we'd bought the money based on having two incomes and had no reason to think that wouldn't be reasonable. But they wouldn't do the refi, and it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. If we can't even do that, how do you expect us to do this?
Right.
This massive 15-year loan payment. But yeah, in December of 2016, we got that notice that it was denied. Then in December 2016,
That's when it all kind of really, really, the wheels kind of came off.
The dam broke.
Yeah, because we had 3 deaths in the family in the course of a week, on both sides of the family.
Yeah, my grandmother, and then a couple of other family members on Brett's side, and one under extremely. We don't really want to go into details, just out of respect for other people's. It's other people's stories, not ours to tell. But really, in one case, just utterly heartbreaking circumstances, completely out of the norm, unbelievable circumstances. And I think we're both still trying to come to grips with how could that even happen.
Yeah. After we've kind of gotten kind of to the end of that season, so to speak, had a lot of pressures coming on at work, just a lot of deadlines, things, at kind of that time frame that everybody kind of gets in there at the end of the year, beginning of the next, and just, projects needing to be rolled out, finished up for the end of the year, and then having new projects roll out at the beginning of the year, and had one project in particular that was coming up that I've been working on. Some things came up with that particular project, and was asked to try to get that wrapped up in a really short time period. And with everything else that was going on, I just kind of started to snap. Had a lot, the mental health issues that I've had for years, those things that had been stable for quite some time, just
for years,
the stress of dealing with Christine's illness, just these other things, losing support, losing.
That's something we forgot to mention too. Around that same time, back in the autumn time, your 3 best friends all moved away.
Yeah, so dealing with
a lot of
that. Yeah, so dealing with a lot of the supports that I had personally with other guys that were really supportive, all of those guys moving away. So yeah, I kind of skipped over that piece, but just so many things culminating at that point, and then kind of coming to a head that one particular weekend, and then just feeling like I just couldn't handle it anymore, and was suicidal. Had had a couple of drinks to try to get myself to level out, just to be able to get home, because I was coming back from work, and kind of came in and said, just was like, I'm just done, and told Christine I was kind of just done, and felt like I needed to go. If I didn't go to the ER, I was gonna hurt myself, or potentially hurt someone else, just because I was so suicidal at that point. And eventually being hospitalized in the psychiatric ward of the hospital, and just not sure what all I was gonna do after that.
I know that during between January and March of 2017, you ended up going to the ER 3 times. Twice you were hospitalized, and I know that I didn't find out till after the fact just how much just being hospitalized in itself was traumatic.
In a psychiatric facility, you're locked into the facility 24 hours a day, and you're kind of told when you can go, when you're going to go to meals, things like that. You have some flexibility over, like, some things, like, you can go to the bathroom, shower, those sorts of things. There are some loosely structured things with groups and stuff like that, but pretty much when you go to the hospital, you're just, they're basically just kind of babysitting you for, 24 to 72 hours to make sure you're not going to hurt yourself or someone else. So it's just a lot. It's a lot to try to deal with. And when you're already in a crisis, to deal with that on top of being in a crisis, just in my opinion, just makes it feel that much worse to deal with and that much more traumatizing.
Now, I think we need to be clear here. People, you have to do what you have to do to stay
Right.
alive.
Right.
Brett had to
not-
go in to this situation to stay alive.
Mhm.
And you have to do that. You have to do that.
Things that you need to do to keep yourself safe and certainly to keep others safe. It's paramount that you do those things, but
But we're going to be truthful about the fact
Yeah.
that it's not therapeutic.
right.
It's not. It's keeping you alive.
Yes, and really, I don't feel like there's a, there's a specific thing that says if you do this, you're gonna, that you're gonna recover. There are best case practices. I don't want to say that there aren't, but it's personal. So I don't want to say that there's
A specific right and
a
wrong.
specific right and wrong, and the path that I took for my own recovery may not work for someone else, and that's okay. You just have to be willing to let that process happen and be open to what is helpful therapeutically.
Right, and I think that another theme that you're going to hear from us a lot is whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. You recover whatever it takes to recover, you do. And that means be brave. If you need to go be hospitalized, we're going to be honest with you about the fact that it's not going to be fun. It's not. It's not going to be therapeutic. It's not going to be that. But it's going to keep you alive. And this matters more. This matters more than your comfort. Staying alive. And... so...
And from my own, and also just on anything we talk about from anything that might be related to addiction or substance use disorder on the channel, a lot of that is informed by the 12-step program, and that's not, I haven't personally had anything specific with an addiction disorder, but just with the work that I do now and things along those lines, I've seen that be the most effective form of therapy or or treatment for folks who are recovering from addiction issues. And that I know that doesn't, not everybody agrees with that model. I know I've seen it work, and I know that from my experience, even with some of the psychiatric pieces, there's some crossover. So that's kind of just where just to be in full disclosure, that's kind of how I approach it as far as things related to anything that we may talk about on the channel from an addiction end.
Well, getting back to our story, the other piece that was happening too, and I'm gonna change how I am because I'm not comfy. I must be comfy. But one of the other pieces that we wanted to talk through is when Brett was going in and out of the hospital, one major frustration that actually was a trigger for a lot of mental health issues was what was going on with the two psychiatrists and FMLA for you.
Yeah, and just a lot of this, pretty much, as far as...
this one needs to sign off on the FMLA.
This doctor needs to sign off on it.
No, you have to sign off on the FMLA.
You sign it.
No, you sign it.
No, you sign it.
No, you sign it.
And this was pretty much what we were dealing with, post-hospitalization, or, and
in the midst of ongoing hospitalization
Right.
and ER visits.
And,
Two doctors that just don't want to spend a half hour filling out paperwork.
Yeah.